Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and a very special match of Beyond All Reason. Today what I've got for you is a match that was recently played in the new Beyond All Reason bar fight nights. Some of you may have heard about it if you're on my Discord channel. There's a link to all that down below in the description section. But basically, some of the members of the Beyond All Reason community got together and started organizing what I like to call a friendly tournament, right? It's a tournament where anybody can show up and play and have fun. I believe they're hosted every Saturday. A little bit of a misnomer because I believe if you're in the EU, they're about in the afternoon, and if they're sort of towards the end of the day, and if you're in the US, they're more towards the middle of the day. But anyway, spawning right here is one of the event organizers who goes by the name of Nebuchadnezzar, going to be playing as the Blue Armada commander here on the southern side of Onyx Cauldron, all the way across the map. A commander that apparently has a little bit of a rivalry. Yeah, apparently these commanders know each other, play against each other, and, well, to say the very least, have it out for each other's necks. So I'll be very curious to see exactly what the back and forth will look like between Jinxer and Nebuchadnezzar. Cortex red right here for Jinxer, going to be Armada blue for Nebuchadnezzar. All things looking well and color coordinated. I love to see some good 1v1s. I'm particularly terrible at 1v1s, definitely one of my softer spots. Definitely lots to learn here. Watching people who actually know how to play the game, and I'm always excited to take a learning opportunity in hand. But also, it's cool to see Armada out. I've wondered if Armada would become more and more prevalent in 1v1 play. Usually Armada is a little bit lackluster. At the very least, it, for the longest time, was lackluster. Armada vehicles were doable, but Armada bots just couldn't compete with Cortex bots. That's partially part of the balance of the game. I've heard different theories about what that actually means, but anyways, I'm glad to see that Armada is making a showing here at the very least, with the change to the pawn being that it can run a little bit faster. It should be able to catch up to grunts, and eventually, yeah, it might even out the imbalance that was there between the grunts and the pawns. Maybe that's enough to set things into motion in such a way that, yeah, we can maybe see some Armada versus Cortex bots happening a little more frequently, but I'll certainly take any opportunity I can. Resbot already out on the field, eating up trees and rocks and all sorts of other stuff that it can find here, trying to funnel as much of that energy back to the blue commander, who's going to put an in-base LLT down. A little bit greedy maybe in an 8v8, but I understand in a 1v1, you definitely have to limit where your APM is being spent, and that's one thing that I will say in the benefit of, or to the benefit of static defenses. It's very APM efficient. It just sits there and it just does its job, and you don't have to micro it whatsoever. It'll pretty much be as efficient as it can without really needing much interference. Seeing some pawns go out on the map, though, we do have a scouting grunt as well, taking a look around, trying to see if maybe it can find some value here. It is looking to move up into the high ground right now, trying to see if there's any early expansion parties, but there really isn't. All the constructors have been kept at home right here for Nebuchadnezzar, just slowly building up the energy economy, building some LLTs, making sure to properly scale that economy. Over on this side, we have a slightly less economically boosted economy right here. You can see the energy is a little bit lower for the red commander. That's held aloft, though, by more resbots that are eating up a bunch of these trees. So obviously that's an expendable resource, but those resbots do contribute quite a lot to the energy economy and can let you jumpstart your production really, really quickly by having, quote-unquote, almost like pseudo-economy, right? It's economy that doesn't last forever, but it is really powerful while it does last. All right, going to start up a nice big chain of wind turbines over here on the southern side for the red commander Jinxer, going to be trying to expand that economy even further, trying to stabilize onto something a little bit more permanent. I feel like since we're Cortex and since we've got the resbots and since there's so many trees to provide the energy cost up front for solar panels, I wouldn't mind seeing some advanced solar panels maybe tucked behind base over here. They're a little bit sturdier, a little bit less, or a little bit more resistant to run by, of course. And as always, they produce that very steady income. But my goodness, wind speed at 29. I just noticed out of the corner of my eye, 29 wind speed. I guess there really is no reason to build anything but wind turbines, because even if energy is low sometimes, the wind risk is 3.2. Okay, so this is definitely a wind map. Going for mass wind is going to be more than sufficient, especially for 1v1s that hardly ever make it to T3, where you need multiple thousands of energy per second. Usually, if you get to about 2,000, you're going to be set for most of a 1v1. Grunt's looking for that engagement. They do find a little bit of an opportunity here, blasting down one pawn. And those pawns using that movement bonus, though, they do manage to catch up to the grunts, and just like that, eventually those grunts are cleaned up by the superior number in pawns. That's cool. That might have seemed like a really, really light matchup, a really easy thing, but that is actually monumental, the fact that those pawns were able to keep up with those grunts and they didn't just get infinitely kited backwards and destroyed. I think it's going to be good for the health of 1v1 that all factions are remaining competitive. We've also been playing a lot of Legion on the live stream, so in case you're interested in checking out what the third faction is pretty close to going to look like upon release, it's definitely a good place to go actually play some games with it, you know, rather than just playing against AI, for instance, or trying to set up a lobby and getting shut down by everybody, you know. I know how it goes. I play the game too. Try to, anyways. More pawns running around the map. These are very injured, though. Not going to be ideal for run-by forces. Maybe we're just hoping to get more scouting than damage done with them. This little pawn over here has done some excellent scouting as well. Has found the expansion here from Jinxer is going to go south as opposed to the east. In an opposite fashion here. Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar has decided to expand northward. There is a geothermal up here, by the way. Almost always we're trying to fight over control of that geothermal. In the early game, that can essentially double your economy right now. Right now, we're looking at the economy of Nebuchadnezzar, and you can see about 300 energy per second, more or less, depending on the resbot reclaim. Versus the, versus the 300 that comes out of a geothermal. This is a nice catch. Okay. The original pawns did get shut down over here, but a couple more did sneak by, and they actually found a constructor and a resbot over here. Really, really efficient kill. Well, pawns in the water, though. Submerged, unable to fire. Ugh, and they do go down. A little bit inefficient on that trade, but that's all right. Pawn's still running for its life over here. We didn't end up getting the constructor, so at the very least there is one more constructor available over here, and we have the resbots. And they are going to resurrect all this. Okay, lovely stuff. That's the power of those resbots, is you can get things up and running on the front lines as opposed to having to produce it and send it from your lab in the back. Can be very, very useful to have that sort of option available. Single Rocketeer available over here on the southern side, going to be the southwestern side, trying to vie for control over, well, anything that these LLTs are going to be guarding. Another geothermal on the southern side here as well. A little bit better guarded. It's got a little bit more high ground to it, whereas this one is much more out in the open. I could definitely imagine vehicles maintaining control over this geothermal quite easily, where, for instance, bots are going to be quite sufficient over here on the left-hand side, where there's choke points and high grounds and all sorts of stuff like that. Feels like the APM is slipping out here, though, for our blue hero. Yeah, we're watching more and more run-bys leaking through right now. Whole army is being pulled over here to try and deflect all this. Reinforcements eventually sent forward to try and deal with this as well. Oh, Resbot's caught out in the open. Oh, no. Well, no micro right there from the red player will mean that the Resbots get away. Just barely, though. Grunt's still leaking through into the backline. Oh, no. They're going to find some constructors and some metal extractors. I think they'll probably get at least the metal extractors. Maybe some of the constructors here, too, though. Ooh, it's close. Wow. Well, I didn't have neither on my ticket, but there you go. Neither constructor, neither metal extractor. Just a little bit of an APM slip right there as the red player loses track of where exactly all those units are, and unfortunately does not get nearly as much value as they probably could have out of those two grunts over here. We probably could have sniped maybe both of the constructors or all the metal extractors, but unfortunately neither. Going to be the answer here. Resbot's patching units up left, right, and center, but of course you run the risk of draining your energy economy quite sufficiently, especially when you rely heavily on those Resbots to reclaim a bunch of the trees, and then you pull them for not only stopping their energy production, but suddenly they become an energy cost. Yeah, you suddenly can find yourself in a really tricky situation. You see the Resbots are kind of grouped up right here. That's another hard thing to manage. Usually best practice is to spread them out all over the place and then queue up a reclaim command so that they're all reclaiming from different parts of the map simultaneously rather than just kind of running around chasing the same trees. But of course, if you're not tremendously energy taxed, it's not the end of the world. Wind speed plummeting right now. Rocketeers blasting down LLTs over here on the left-hand side. Nebuchadnezzar are looking for an opportunity to push forward right here, but we don't really have any assault forces. I guess we have the single tick. The Rocketeers right here are going to be used as essentially the assault forces. Not the end of the world, but definitely not ideal. Large pawn run by up on this northern side. Basically, the entire force of pawns has been pulled over here. They're going to find some constructors and an armed exploiter, all of this stuff being set up by a couple of these construction bots. The armed mechs will go down. Grunt's trying to defend this, also in a little bit of trouble here. LLT for defense. Going to try and make sure this all remains safe and sound. Rocketeer's having a hard time against those thugs, certainly. LLT thwarts the attempt right here for the run by. You have a grunt versus grunt right here. Eventually it's cleaned up. All right. So was that aggression worth the entire army on the northern side? Well, if we see a massive counterattack right here from the red commander through the northern side, we could sweep out basically every metal extractor, all 4 of these metal extractors right here, 2 constructors, and most of the army over here. We definitely need a lot more assault forces coming out of the labs right now from the blue commander, who is, overflowing metal right now, actually. Yeah, running low on build power, it looks like. Having a hard time actually spending the resources in the bank right now. It's a good problem and a frustrating problem because oftentimes it takes too long to solve and suddenly you find yourself in a tricky situation. And as it stands right now, that's just the red commander's main victory, is just putting the units on the field, allowing the metal to go stand on the field and have some presence. Keeping things nice and repaired here with the res bots too. The little back massage going on right there. Patching up all those thugs, making sure they're in tip-top shape just before they march forward, off and into war. Resbot's hard at work up here on the northern side as well, patching together an army of the dead and deceased, long gone members of the, previous members of the blue team. Some construction bots actually going to be resurrected here. Oh, that's a little bit cheeky. We could see a Armada tech transition. That'd be funny. Transition into some Armada units or some Armada vehicles and then Cortex bots. It's a very powerful composition. Bunch of Janices on the back of a whole bunch of thugs. Definitely seems dangerous. Now, technically speaking, the Rocketeers can be a good counter to this army composition, but it takes a long time to shut those thugs down if you don't have sufficient numbers. I would definitely say more than double the amount of thugs here is going to be insufficient numbers for Nebuchadnezzar. This position is looking very, very difficult to hold. The only saving grace right here for the blue commander is the fact that they've essentially locked down this northern island over here. You can see the lightning turrets coming up. Already got the metal extractors. Geothermal should be planned eventually as well. Red commander actually looking to try and capture that as well with some static defense. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd love to see it. Man, this never-ending stream of thugs marching out to the field. 3 thugs to 1 grave robber. And we're just putting them out on the field, making sure that they're constantly under production. Resbots eating up all of the metal that's possible. And just like that, we have ourselves in a bit of a tricky situation. Oh, cheeky. Nebuchadnezzar, the blue commander, has gone for an air transition. Maybe sensing that all that time overflowing metal has led to a crazy deficit. Feeling like this connection over here, this army over here on the left-hand side is going to be much too sturdy to try and deal with in a conventional sense. Going for a whole bunch of bombers. Gunships. The T1 light gunship, the Banshee, the light gunship. Very rare that we see the Banshee come out, especially in 1v1, but even in other matches, in 8v8s, for instance. And for good reason. They're not particularly great. They tend to have a lot of issues, one of which being they're extremely flimsy, the other being that they're very costly to produce. Nearly 2,500 energy, in order to produce one of those. And they don't have tremendous DPS either, so they're kind of just poor all around, but I guess all that is said of a T1 gunship that can do some amount of damage out of a T1 laboratory. Is it going to be enough against these thugs? I feel like a couple of bombers wouldn't be the worst idea. 2 or 3 Stormbringers just to soften up a bunch of this composition before you send the gunships in. Oh, are we going for a snipe? Oh, we might be going for a snipe. I think that's what this is. We have 13 Banshees. I think with my own test, it was like 12. Oh, wait, 14. It was about 12 Banshees is what you needed to kill a commander in a reasonable amount of time. Oh, I think we're going for it. Yeah, I think we're going for the snipe right now. Jinxer's commander is out in the open, completely exposed. The Banshees jump on top of it, start blasting away immediately. It's a couple % per shot, but they do fire pretty quick. Oh, there's 14 of them. Oh, they can't see the commander. Oh, no. Oh, if they're microed properly, they can do it. Jinxer needs to stand still. He's moving the commander, draining all the energy. Oh, every time he moves. There we go. 9%. Oh, they don't know where. They don't know where the commander is. Oh, that's so funny. 6%, 5%, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jinxer booms! And just like that, Nebuchadnezzar takes this game as the thugs march into the base, but still manages to claim victory. clutching victory from the jaws of defeat, certainly here, is our blue team leader, just barely managing to eke out a win here with a very cheesy gunship pull. What a hilarious end to this 1v1. Thanks a ton for watching, and be sure to go check out those bar fight nights on Saturdays. Those should be a whole lot of fun. I stream on Saturdays too. I think they're going to be misaligned from each other, so you can participate in both in case you want to. And other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next one. Peace out, everybody.